Every person has a story, but not everyone has a place to tell it. I'm Frank Swoboda. I've interviewed amazing people all over the planet. I want you to meet them. This week, the most interesting person you've never heard of is...
My name is Jim McPhee. I'm the most interesting person you've never heard of because I played in front of tens of people for Gonzaga basketball last century.
Hey, thanks for doing this, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, we are sitting here, so just let's be honest about when this is recorded. This is recorded on Black Monday, Black Friday. This is Black Friday, the day after the Zags get bumped.
Sadly.
I was thinking, let's have Jim McPhee on, because as they triumphantly, tranche their way to a national championship, who better to talk about that? And then, of course, they, get their tails kicked by. Yeah.
I think I can speak with more personal knowledge about the disappointment after losses than I could about winning NCAA tournament games.
That's why I thought this is even better.
Yep.
But also, mostly how spoiled we are in this town.
Yeah.
To be Zag fans, because when you played, I mean, this was not even a distant. Did you ever fathom this?
I played in front of tens of people.
I was one of them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pretty much every time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your support.
My favorite moment about that was, it was so quiet in there that I could always hear you, because you were just down the hall, like 3 or 4 doors, right, into Smet, and we'd always hear you when you would miss hitting a cutter or something. You'd miss a pass. Shit! And the whole place could hear it because there was no crowd.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the old kennel.
Yeah. Back in the old kennel.
So I think we're spoiled. How spoiled is this community?
Well, I mean, this run is unprecedented. And to maintain it like that, that's what's even more insane. I mean, you're going to wax and wane and have good years and okay years. But, I mean, the one I always go back to is, so we're about to lose Sabonis and Wilcher. What are we going to do? We're going to make the final game the very next year. I mean, the ability to reload is probably, to me, the most remarkable thing about the program.
Yeah, I think that's one of the. But I wonder now, as we go into. So just to backtrack a little bit. So you played what years?
85 to 90. I had a redshirt year my junior year. And
during your freshman year, I believe, there was no three-point shot in college basketball.
No, it wasn't until my junior year, I think.
So I think 87, something like that. I look back, and in fact, I had a quote. This is pretty cool. When it came in, nobody wanted. The coaches were against it. Krzyzewski said, "You should have to work hard to get a basket." He said, "This is a monster threat to America's pastime." And now, of course, he's lived with it, and we've all grown with it, and I can't imagine the game without a three. I think it would be. It was a much more boring game.
Yeah, it was quick to integrate too, because my coach Stan Fitzgerald, same way when it first came in. No, we're trying to get the best, highest percentage shot closest to the basket. But then you get people on the team like Mike Winger or Paul Walker, Doug Spradley, the guys that could actually shoot it, and Fitz pretty quickly integrated it.
Yeah, well, you could shoot it.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I remember seeing you about, 5 or 10 years ago at a Subway downtown, and there was just some article that had been in the paper, and I'm like, McFly, you're the second leading scorer all time in Gonzaga basketball history? And you're like, I am?
Third, actually.
Are you third now?
Courtney Vandersloot.
I love that. That's right. She is fantastic. I got to work with her. She was great.
She was something to watch.
Unbelievable.
I mean, so amazing.
Amazing.
Frank Burgess is number one. He did it in 3 years without a three-point line.
Well, that's where I was going with this. You're number 3, but without half your career without the 3.
Yeah.
And Burgess too, without the 3. Unbelievable. He's an attorney, or was he a judge?
He was a judge. He was an attorney, then a federal magistrate judge in Tacoma before he passed away. But he'd come talk to us every single year. Just the greatest guy. And I loved his story was, so he's being recruited. He's from the South and being recruited by a lot of huge schools. Right. But he said Hank Anderson, the coach back then, on the recruiting trip, took him into the president's office, and the president of Gonzaga University said, "Well, what do you want to study?" And he said right then, that's where I knew where I wanted to go. So only recruiting trip where anybody asked him what he wanted to study.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So is he still alive, I think?
No, he's not.
Did he pass away?
Yeah. Yep.
But did you see him later in life?
Yeah, I did. When we'd see each other, most of the time I was around Gonzaga games, and I'd say, hey, number one. He'd say, hey, number two. But my kids just loved him. He's such a...
So I guess Courtney Vandersloot's going to have to be an attorney.
Something smarter than that.
Just to keep the streak alive.
Yeah.
So, I watched that game last night, Gonzaga. I didn't feel good about it the whole way. And I'm just like, Musselman's got our number. He's beat us before, mucking up the game, run into a tough team again. All these kind of, crazy athletes from 6'2" to 6'9", something like that in that range. Rebounders like crazy, hit the glass, and I thought, super sad. I'm like, well, hey, Tommy's playing. Arizona's going to play after
I know.
this.
Everybody shifts gears and goes, we'll root for Tommy now.
And then
that's too bad.
I mean, deja vu. They ran into Houston was almost a carbon copy of Arkansas.
Right.
When I look at that, I think, Jay Billis from ESPN always talks about whenever he watches Gonzaga, and they're playing their game in the 80s and 90s. So it's a beautiful thing to watch because they cut and it is beautiful to watch. That game last night was not beautiful to watch. Not because they lost, but because I don't remember as many let them plays. It's turned into rugby. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I think that's how you beat Gonzaga. You slow it down. You have them score 29 in the first half. I mean, you slow the game down to a snail's pace. And, I mean, they had to be a little bit lucky, too, that they would, they're being so physical, but then you also have to have the refs, and not to just blame the refs, but have them participate by swallowing their whistles a little bit. Because if they'd have called it tight, it would have been a different game. But if they're allowed to play that physical, I mean, it's just tough. It is rugby.
Yeah, I know. I don't like that.
No.
Do you think it's
not good?
Change?
It's not good.
It's not enjoyable to watch.
No, like I said, it's kind of luck of the draw. I say maybe with different refs, the game could have been a little bit different. Not saying that the refs did anything wrong, but it's just tough to adjust to that style of play.
I think is it so having played as long as you played, what is the relationship with the refs like? Is every game different because of that?
I was raised by ref haters. So talking about my relationship, I mean, going back to grade school, culminating with Dan Fitzgerald. So, but, I think it's activist refs are annoying, but also, I think consistency is one of the big things. If the refs are going to call it tight, but they call it tight both ways all game, as long as it's consistent, because then it's cause and effect and you can adjust your game that way. It's when they're kind of inconsistent and they'll let one team
not unlike an umpire that's calling the outside strike. If you're going to call it.
Yep, and you call it every time. You can make then you can make adjustments, and there's some predictability to it. And I think that's it. When you have when you take a look at the ref crew, if they're working really hard and they're being consistent, I mean, that's what you ask for.
So, you played for Dan Fitzgerald, who was, I remember when Mark got the job. Actually, at Dan Watson was the coach. We were doing a bunch of highlight reels for him. In fact, Tommy was a grad assistant, and or had just started. And those guys making $5,000 a year. I think that he was making that. He was. Yeah. And we would do the highlight reel, and it became clear. Billy Greer, and then Tommy. It became clear to me that I had to feed these guys. I literally like, hey, you hungry? Want a burger?
Right.
They would come over to our place, and there's always food and stuff, and I just remember that group, those young guys after Fitz, they were so different. They were so different from him. What was it? You were not on the edge of that. Dan wasn't there. And
he was.
Dan there?
Dan and Few.
So you saw the transition from Dan and from Fitz to Dan and Mark. What was that like? I've heard lots of stories about it was such different generations. Yeah,
but also I think the one thing that was great to see was Fitz was giving them a long leash, and he was saying, go and find me a type of guy. And so, and that's where Few and Munson really excelled. They could go and turn over every stone, and they could find, I always take a look at like that movie Miracle about the 1984 U.S. hockey team. It's like we're not getting all the best guys at every position. We're putting together kind of a system. and we're going to get the right guys in the right spots. And then they were just my last year, the redshirt team was, I think, one of the first teams that really kind of turned it around. I always refer to my team as my last team as like the 0 and the 180-degree turn of the program. And it was the next guys that were just so cohesive, and they just bought into the system, and they played the right way, and they played, for each other, for the school. And it was really something. But it was Fitz giving Munson and Few this long leash to go find a type of guy. And then, the redshirt team that year, a lot of times when a guy would redshirt, he'd be, when he'd take the court, he had to learn the other team's offense, and they'd be a little bit almost coming on the court, not apologetic, but it was just like, okay, I'm a redshirt, I learned the other team's offense. These guys came in with the other team's offense to kill us, and it was just something so cool to see that, they
Give
just
me some
got
names
these,
of some of the guys that
Matt
brought
Stanford, Jeff Goss, Jeff Brown, Eric Brady.
Jeff Brown, wow.
Yeah.
He was a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you weren't, because you were a big get for that program at that point. I mean,
but it was, these guys were, I don't know if I'd want to say different, but just maybe how cohesive they were, and just great guys. Like I said, they just, played to win, played for each other.
Yeah.
They were just such a tight group.
I've heard, podcasts or conversations between Billy and Mark and Dan about, like, Fitz would rehearse the tip. You guys would practice the tip. Mm-hmm. Like, why are we doing that? I mean,
he was a big drill guy and a big repetition guy, kind of almost like a muscle memory type of thing.
Right.
And I think Few and Munson kind of carried that on.
Well, they were sort of like, why are we doing this stuff? And also, one of the big differences was, hey, we're going to go recruit this Pac-10 guy at the time, right? We're going to go find this Pac-10 guy, and Fitz was like, we'll never get him. And they're like, yeah, we will. And they did.
Yeah.
There was a little moxie there from those guys.
Right. So it would be like,
maybe they were younger.
It'd be somebody like Eric Brady, from Mercer Island, and he'd go to UW and then he'd transfer to Gonzaga, or he'd have Brown transfer to Gonzaga. And I remember, to me, one of the big moments was Matt Santangelo, who's staring down back then Pac-10 teams and Gonzaga, and he chose Gonzaga outright. And I thought, that's a big moment in the program.
That was a big shift nobody really talks about.
Right.
Yeah. I know. Steve Kerr was recruited by Gonzaga.
I know.
And turned down.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually, I thought that was urban legend until I talked to the coaches that drove him back to the airport and said, no, I don't think you're going to.
So when was he compared to you in that?
He would have been before, yeah. There may have been a little, maybe a 1 year of a crossover, I forget. But
so, and everybody hears about the culture there. I mean, I've seen it just peripherally, just getting to, I think I've filmed probably 8 or 9 zags and different things that we've done over the years, and just I see the same kind of kid, super. Remember that first year that they went, I guess 98 or 99, whenever they went to the Elite Eight, and Casey Calvary and all those, the tip in and all that stuff. And I just remember, I think it was El Amin for Connecticut. Was he playing for Connecticut? Mm-hmm. And the story was, behind the scenes was, all the Gonzaga players go up there without anybody. I mean, Monson's just like, these guys can speak for themselves. They're really smart kids. And they did, and they were just like fun and irreverent a little, but polite, and, just really appropriate dudes. And then El Amin's like turns around to the rest of the guys on the dais and says, I'm the only one talking. And I got this. And the other guys just didn't say anything. And I don't know if that was just his choice or not, but it was so refreshing to see these guys who, like, you just didn't see that. And I think that still was the case, if you guys had been there. I think you would have been the same way. Are there things in the culture that are still there from when you were there?
Yeah, when you take a look at the program, just from facilities to the players to everything, it's just a different animal. But the one common thread that I always say is just the type of guys that they get. I mean, that you don't see them selling out for the best possible recruit. They're still good fits, and they're still polite. I mean, one of the things I remember was, so we have like a alumni weekend. An alumni weekend after that alumni game, we all go down to the HERAC room, and once Kevin Pangos was in there, and the other players were checking in with him, and he was telling them when they could leave, because he didn't want the players to seem impolite, and just kind of come in, grab food, and leave. Another one was Nigel Williams-Goss.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there.
We
and
got
he has
to
a
film
couple
with
of
Nigel for a whole day right out after they had gotten to the championship game. What an amazing guy.
Yeah, so I'm in there with one of my nephews and a niece. They're just little kids, and they want to meet him, and they walk up to say hi, and he has a couple of sodas in his hand, and he says, "Hold on one second." He turns his back to him, but he sets them down because he wants to shake their hands. It's just like little things like that.
Yeah.
But it shows you, just kind of the character and the guys that they get, you can still really, really stand behind.
Yeah, we just filmed with Joe Few, Will Graves, and Matthew Lang, and one of the women players, and I cannot remember her first name. I should know that. Anyway, she was fantastic, and the same thing. They were all just, I'm like, hey, you guys can hang out here and play pool if you want, while we're filming one at a time, and no, they weren't. Like, we're like all in to watch everybody sort of support each other, really polite the whole time, super easy to work with. I don't think that's changed. I mean, and they're the walk-on guys, but in some ways they have their own NIL deal now.
Yeah, exactly.
So what has that done? That was the other thing, like the transfer portal, right? So there's such a finality in this town. I don't know what you tell people when, like there's a hangover for about a month because we're so spoiled.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like people don't remember. Like you guys would win 15 games. That was a pretty good year.
Right.
And so, when you have to deal with that, what do you tell people that are just, moping around and sad?
Yeah. Well, it is sad, but at the same time, if you've got a long memory, you realize what rare air we're breathing. I mean, it shouldn't be that long of a hangover because we're sitting there opening the season at number 1, closing the season at number 1. And it's to get through the NCAA tournament. I mean, number 1, you got to be good. Number 2, you got to win one game ugly. And number 3, you got to be lucky, and it's really, really hard to even just get to the Sweet 16 this many times. And
7 in a row.
Yeah, ridiculous. I mean, it's so disappointing. I was so upset, last night, but at the same time, just staying objective as to where this program, where it came from, where it is. It's
they got a
just
tough draw
insane.
Too. That's
right.
not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Memphis is not a 9.
Yeah, which is part of the luck. Part of the luck aspect.
Right. Maybe that was their close game was that one instead of Arkansas, who played a great game. I mean, those guys did not miss. I was surprised by how much they missed offensively.
Yeah.
They were tired. Something. I don't know. I guess it's just the defense of Arkansas.
Yeah. Getting taken out of your rhythm maybe just a little bit. And sometimes, it's just you have an off night.
So how much do you follow it? Do you find yourself doing that? And then I wanted to ask you about the first time they went to the Final Four, what that was like for you. Because did you go? Were you part of that? So tell me about that story.
Yeah. Well,
you must follow it, or do you not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, still follow it. Have season tickets. My brother Bryce has season tickets right behind me.
Yeah. I think ours aren't far from you. I see you sometimes. Yeah.
And I got Paul Verrett, who I played with.
Paul, yeah.
He's next to me, and then Brad Pinney is right behind him.
I saw him in Vegas, in Phoenix at the Final Four. He and Chris. Who's the other guy? Chris that played with you.
Delaney.
Chris Delaney.
Yeah.
I saw those guys at the experience, Final Four experience. I was like, what are you guys doing? It was great.
I mean, at times it's surreal, but it's built up, over time. It's not kind of an overnight, all of a sudden we've got guys and we're good. I mean, it's been building up to it. Yeah. It's been a long progression, but still you find yourself sitting back and just realizing, like I said, it's just such rare air.
Yeah.
To be breathing, particularly for a school of our size. And
so, what was that experience like for you when they got there?
It was great. It was just great to see everybody. I mean, that's what I remember a lot of it. So you got
to go. They invited all the players. Tell me about that. So what happened?
Well, actually, my brother and I went for the final game. We didn't, and I wished I'd have gone for the entire thing because there was like a film session where all the former players were there and showed up, and then the existing team. As I understand it, like made a corridor and they were clapping while the former players. I mean, it's just such a nice tip of the hat. I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of those other nice touches,
I think they do want to win it for you.
Yeah, I think
there is a sense.
I think there is. Yeah, they understand the kind of the legacy. whatever you want to call it, but it's just more, like a brotherhood.
Yeah. I've found it really classy that Mark would do that.
Yeah.
Like invite all you guys down there.
Yeah.
And have a bash, and they enjoyed it. I thought that might be the thing that got him over the hump, and it was close.
Yeah.
Talk about refs, very similar.
Well, again, it's just
if that game is called not as tight, they win that by 10.
Yeah. I think we win that. I think we beat them 7 or 8 times out of 10. So it's just unfortunate.
The transfer portal. So I look at this team right now and I go, like you said, every year you think that they're never going to figure it out, and then they do. But I don't feel like they have as many players coming in from high school. They sort of have left that open a little. And it's like free agency now, right? Like any player can go play anywhere. Would you have tested those waters, McPhee? Would you have gone?
No, I don't think I would have. I don't
think you would have either.
No, I don't think I would have. I think I was
too much tradition.
Well, no, that too, and I think I was realistic about myself. I had a great time at Gonzaga, but if I thought I was going to transfer to Stanford, and contribute like that, I just don't know if. Plus, you put so much time into it. I so much of your day. That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is, it sounds great playing college sports, but it's really an exercise in like discipline and time management. You just don't have any spare hours in the day. It's really, really hard.
It is.
And
I don't know how you
invest so much into that program. To think of playing anywhere besides that program to me it's amazing. But the thing about the transfer portal and Gonzaga is, so how do you find the really, really talented guy that will come in and kind of be a role player? Really, because when they need to shine, when the transfers need to shine, they shine, and they probably could do it all the time. But to get somebody who has maybe the team focus, maybe even like the humility, and really who's in it to say, I'm transferring because I want to be a part of something, really special, and I want to try and win the whole thing. It just kind of goes back to that. Guys are all cut out of a similar cloth.
I heard one time from somebody, it might have been Jerry Krause, who is amazing. I'd love to get Jerry on this because that guy was an amazing dude. But that you get, I think the coaches get an opportunity to meet every prospective player up to 4 times or something. Like there's a limit. Mm-hmm. You can meet them once or you can meet them 4 or 5 times. And that at least this back in the day anyway, that this crew, Mark and Billy and Tommy, would meet every player every time, as many times as they could, because the character piece was that important. Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. Not at all. And the other thing that they would do in recruiting was listen to the players. After you spend, a weekend with a kid or something like that, with a recruit, they'd sit you down and say, what do you think? And talk to all the players and what do you think? Because I want to make sure that he's going to be a fit, obviously a fit on the court, but a fit on campus, fit in the classroom,
right. So you're building an ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would just take one to spoil it.
Best fit story.
Oh, can't even come close
Give
to
me
sharing.
3. I don't know. That guy. What was up with the white hair? The little white speck of hair?
I don't know. I'll never meet anybody the rest of my life that reminds me of Fitz.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. I knew him
my kids just adored him too. So I'd take my kids. So the same thing, so my wife and I would adjust our schedules to pay for less daycare, and I'd have the kids on Saturdays. And so if I was working the Fitz camp, which is once a year, I'd bring the kids, and they'd draw these pictures for Fitz, and they'd hand him up these coloring books, and Fitz would look at it like, what is, he couldn't even comprehend, because he would talk to everybody the same way no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're a kid, doesn't matter if they're an adult.
It's true.
Yeah, and my kids just loved him for it.
He was like a big cartoon character, sort of.
Yeah.
A real life one.
Yeah.
No story? Was he hard on you, or you were kind of the perfect child? Dude, you were good. You were like all-American guy, number 24, you had hair.
And muscles. It was glorious. Hair and muscles, that was glorious.
You were cool. You were like the all-American dude. He must have treated you better than Spradley for sure.
It was more that he didn't. That maybe we had fewer interactions because he wasn't needing to tell me, what to do or something like that.
You did what you said you were going to do the first time.
Yeah. No, when Fitz. So there was a different head coach at Gonzaga when I was being recruited. Yeah. And then Jay Hillock was no longer head coach, and Fitz, who was the athletic director, named himself as head coach, and so. I actually called him that day and said, that's where I want to play. I mean, Fitz, so he was recruiting my brother Bryce, and I was in 7th grade. And my brother Bryce, if he said 3 words his entire senior year in high school, it would, it'd be amazing. And so he's sitting in the recruiting visit, and me and Fitz are just talking a mile a minute. And I just bonded with, him, early on. But I mean, nobody would outwork Fitz. And he was loyal to a fault. Yeah, and you knew that and so like when former players, if Jamie Dudley or Jared Davis, Jeff Goss, Brown, Brady, they roll into town, Matt Stanford, we're always getting together, and we've always got Fitz there.
Yeah. I remember he came into Smet where we lived and tried to get us to go to the games.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
I tell people that, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you cannot get, I've had season tickets for 20-something years, and, like, they're going to be willed to my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, back then?
No. You could walk in and out of the games. I remember, so my freshman year, Northtown was a strip mall.
Yes.
And they send us to Northtown, the freshmen. They send us up to Northtown, and we have the posters with the schedule on it. And it was Fitz with a light blue hard hat, and it says blue collar basketball is back. Fitz is back. And it's got our schedule with like Montana Tech and Sisters of the Poor and a really tough.
Very Dale Goodwin.
Yeah, very
awesome.
Yeah, not the toughest preseason schedule. Our power ranking was not through the roof. Yeah, exactly. Dropping 40 points on somebody whose mascot was the Ore Diggers was a little different than today's preseason. But so anyway, they send us up there.
That's how you got to be the number 2's leading scorer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're playing Lewis and Clark State, not Louisville.
Getting guarded by 5'6" guys. We had that program, the poster with the schedule on it, and then we also had tickets to our first 2 games, which were printed out on like 8.5 by 11 paper, that you crank out, and some bored student intern is cutting them out, and they're all crooked and they don't stack right. So we go up to the different stores and we're like, "Hi, my name's Jim McPhee. I'm a freshman at Gonzaga."
No way.
I swear. And I'd like to see if we can put a poster up and tickets to our first 2 games. And I swear to you, half of the people, nope. No, not interested. Thanks, though. And then you'd have other ones. You'd have other ones that would call the athletic department like a month later and say, "Did these games happen? Can we throw these away?" So, I mean, but then again, I mean, you've got the diehard fans, and I never once looked in the stands and was like, "Oh, this is sad." I only have memories of great fans, great kennel clubs, creative, and
we were there. Yeah. I mean, we weren't dressed up like that or whatever, but our whole dorm showed up. When he came and asked, it was like, okay, we went.
Yeah. And I look back
at the beginning of it, I think.
Some people have, I'll see pictures, and to me, it's not, it's not as sparse as maybe it actually was, but we'd bring in, some big teams. Yeah, but I just have fond memories of the fans.
Did you play against DePaul when they came?
No, it was my brother Bryce.
Bryce did. Yeah. Because I was going to those games when I was 10. Like, we would be the halftime entertainment. I was telling this to Mike Hazel. It's like, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're right." Because at halftime, all the Catholic school kids would come down and play a pickup game.
Yep.
And that was it. That was the show. And I would go all the time to those games.
My brother played on the team that beat DePaul at DePaul.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But I remember it was Ray Meyer's one of his last year. And he got the biggest ovation. Ray Meyer got the biggest ovation at Gonzaga.
Yeah, that's
because he was a legend.
Truly old school.
I know. I
had a guy that I played with went to one of his basketball camps in Chicago. When we're talking about now parents will drop their kids off at basketball camp and they'll stay there the whole time and they'll watch the entire camp and then they'll talk to their kids at breaks as to why they should be hustling more, playing better. And I always try and get I always make a motion before the camp saying no parents. We kick all the parents out. But so we're talking about the difference between camps nowadays and camps back in the day. This guy talks about going to a Ray Meyer camp. And so Ray Meyer's talking to all the kids. They're all just sitting there. And he's talking about whatever he's talking about. And one kid talks to his friend. And Ray Meyer looks at one of the assistants, points at the kid. Assistant takes the ball, pings him off the head as hard as he can. Kid's almost knocked out, and nobody questions it.
Right.
It's just like, why were you talking when Coach Myers was talking?
Right.
You know, it's just a different era. Not saying that it was necessarily better, you know, you're not volunteering for head injuries, but it just was a different era. And Ray Myers was about as old school.
My grade school football coach was a maniac, dude. Grade school.
That's Kerry Pickett.
Grabbing your face mask. Yeah.
Is that Kerry Pickett?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No. But same era, same dude. Yep. You know, just grabbing your face mask and just screaming at you. I'm just what is going on?
See, so I remember when we had Fitz's camps. I remember not near the end, but in the beginning, you know, he'd put a kid on the free throw line, and all the kids are, you know, in the camp are around there, and he'd say, "Make the free throw." And if the kid wouldn't make it, he'd scream at him and say, "It's not okay." You know, just the whole missing a free throw and slapping it, it's not okay. But then when the kid would make it, he'd make everybody applaud for him. But, you know, that, you know, wasn't something that I don't think you see, you know, a whole lot of right now.
And, you know, Stockton obviously was a huge part of your life too.
Yeah.
Tell me your John stories, because I grew up. John ran the basketball camp at G Prep when I was like in 6th grade. So we would go ride our bikes every summer, and we'd go to the G Prep basketball camp when we were, you know, kids. And John was, you know, I think a senior, and he was like our star. Like he was, oh my God, we thought he was amazing, because my favorite memory of John in the old Boone Street barn, at the Coliseum in Spokane, was in high school watching him. There was no shot clock. He was his own four corners. Yeah. He would kill the last 5 minutes of the game by just dribbling around.
He's like Curly Neal from the Globetrotters.
He was Curly Neal. Yeah. He couldn't catch him, and they'd have to foul him, and then he'd make free throws.
Yeah.
And I mean, guys like that changed the rules. You know? Yeah. So we thought he was just the coolest thing. And he, you know, my brother and him were graduating the same year, and so John was around. My mom and Jack Stockton went to 1st grade together. You know, like we just knew each other our whole lives, or their family, and I knew his sisters, and it was just kind of part of the deal. You know, for you, he played with Bryce, right?
Right.
And
he still played. He still played in the off season. You know, with us, he just was a different animal with a different gear.
So he would finish playing, because I literally believe that John Stockton has played basketball every day of his life since he was 10.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, they made him back off to try to add some years to his career, because his work ethic is just so huge, you know. And so they
still played 19 years.
Yeah, yeah. You know, with John, I mean, he's such a down-to-earth great guy.
He is.
And so one thing I'll always tell people is, you know, the initial reaction of people that don't know him is, that's John Stockton. That's John Stockton. And I'm like, go talk to him, and the shiny luster is gone right away, and you just realize he's just a good guy.
Totally.
You know, as much as he wanted, you know, when he's in Utah playing for the Jazz, and he's, you know, leaving for games, he wants it to be like Jack leaving for, you know, his job as he was growing up. Dad's going to work. Yep. Dad's back from work.
Right.
You know, and then you have when we worked the John Stockton School of Basketball, right? So it was 3 weeks of boys camps and then a girls camp at the end. There was a team camp, 2 weeks of boys camps, and then a girls camp at the end. Where was that held? Started off at Post Falls High School as a day camp, and then we moved it to SFCC, and then it was an overnight camp. And then we moved it to Gonzaga as an overnight, and it stayed as an overnight camp. But in that camp, John wouldn't do it when it finally we didn't have the John Stockton School of Basketball anymore. It's because John couldn't be there like every single day. I mean, if he couldn't be like every counselor, so I'm working the camp as a counselor, John's putting in the same hours as I am. John has, you know, his own station and his own clinic that the kids rotate through.
Right.
John,
he's just one of the
coaches.
Guys.
Yep. John coaches one of the teams.
Wow.
I mean, it's just he's just a lunch pail guy.
Yeah.
And his mom, you know, Clemmy was so great, and his dad, you know, they gave me a job. I worked at Jack and Dan's for 3 summers.
Did you?
Which was just amazing.
And they still survive somehow.
Amazing. They still
experience.
Stayed open. Even that, it's like a different animal back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jack was a fiery dude, man.
Yeah. Jack was the best.
He was fun, and could scare you too.
Yeah.
He would get fired up a little bit, you know.
It was just a great. I mean, I couldn't have been. I was just so socially inept. And that job helped me so much.
You were pretty shy.
Yeah, and that job was just a great place. It was a great place to work.
It was.
Great boss, great people.
It was. Yeah, I remember my dad went to high school with Jack and Danny Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was 21, he said, okay, I want to buy you your first legal beer at a place you're so familiar with. Meet me at Jack and Dan's.
That's right.
So I went to Jack, and I had my first beer in the corner booth there with Jack, Dan, and my dad. And,
that's a great
so
story.
now my kids, both their first 21 beer they had in the same booth, and I mean there's a tradition there.
Yeah.
It's really a special.
They had a
place.
stairway. I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah.
Because it used to be University Pharmacy.
Oh, I worked
right
at
next
University
to it.
Pharmacy.
Yeah, so did my wife. So did Dana.
Did she really?
Yeah.
No way. That was a great gig.
Yeah.
It was the best gig.
Yep. And but there's a stairway that went behind
I know that
where
stairway.
the bar is now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
down to the storeroom or whatever. Yeah.
And then on your last shift, you'd sign the wall. And I never signed the wall because I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to need to pick up another shift.
You still might need it.
Yeah, I know.
You never know.
That's right.
Jimmy. You never know that you.
I don't think I'd qualify anymore.
When did you first meet John? Was he just always
It was a
around?
City State. They used to have this. I don't know if they still have it. City State basketball game. So they'd take all the best players in the state and they'd put half of them on a team they'd call the city and half a team they'd call the state.
Right.
And one game would be on the west side of the state and one game would be in the east side of the state. And I just remember.
Where did you go to high school?
Bryce played in it and John played in it. And I just remember
what high school was that?
I was at Bellarmine.
Bellarmine. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I just remember being in a hotel room and sitting there with Rodney Taylor, just some old names, and Bryce, and then John was there, and John was just holding court because he's just so funny, quick-witted.
People don't know how funny that guy is.
Yeah.
I remember watching Legion baseball up at Al K. Jackson Field at Shadle, because I lived right by Shadle, and we'd ride up and watch the Legion games. It was great. Summer night, it was just the best. And John he'd go to the game sometimes and sit right behind the ump and heckle the crap out of that guy. And I'm just like, whoa, this guy is... You don't think he trash talked? Hell yeah, he did.
Yeah,
He just seemed like the choir boy, but...
Quick-witted and funny, yeah.
Were you a trash talker, McPhee?
Never.
Really?
Ever.
Doug Spradley?
I wouldn't characterize him as a trash talker.
No.
He's fiery. I mean, once
I love Doug.
Yeah, once the clock started and it was actual game time, nobody played harder.
No, he was intense, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite Doug Spradley memory is we were in my dorm room. No, it was his dorm room. The Masters was on, 1986 Sunday. Jack Nicklaus's 1 under par, front nine. He's 7 shots off, something crazy like that. And I'm like, Jack's going to win this. And Spradley's like, you are absolutely crazy. He's an old man. He's done. Because Doug played golf. He and I would go play golf. And I was just like, yeah, it is. And so I don't know if we bet anything. I think we did. And it was like, he's going to totally win this. And then he makes birdie after birdie, makes an eagle. And Spradley's like, what in the hell is going on here? And then the room gets fuller. And I mean, our entire floor is there watching that final round. And Spradley he had to just eat crow the whole time. And I was so happy. Because he was a hell of a... He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, amazing athlete, period, at anything. So the tennis coach wanted him to play tennis. Said he'd be #1 tennis player. And Fitz said, nope. Golf coach wanted him to golf. I mean, anything he wanted to do. The guy just had an innate ability.
What about you? No?
No.
Really?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
You don't have the same thing?
No, not at all. I was the guy that was in the gym just 10 hours a day.
Focused on that one thing.
Well, because I had to. I just wasn't naturally gifted.
Whatever.
No, I mean, truly, some guys just, rolling out of bed.
They're
just kind of naturals. That just wasn't me.
Yeah. All-time favorite Zags?
My brother Bryce, by far.
What'd you learn from him? What did he teach you the most?
Toughness, intensity. Probably the most thing is just work ethic.
He was one of my favorite players when I was a kid, like with 7th grade, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Phenomenal
No, he was.
player.
He
that
was
team was
absent.
good.
So when he got done, so he was John's year, and then he blew out his knee. He broke his leg and had to redshirt, and so that's what separated he and John from finishing together.
Okay, that's right.
And then Bryce's last year at Gonzaga, he blew out his knee, and that ended his college career. And then he was rehabbing. He was still going to play overseas, and he was rehabbing, and he got hit by a car. He was riding his bike, got hit by a car, blew out his other knee.
Oh my God.
But after Stockton goes through the combines, he's last cut on the U.S. Olympic team.
I remember
he
that.
rides in the van back to the airport with Charles Barkley and Terry Porter as the last cut.
Right.
So he goes through the whole, Bobby Knight grinder.
Think about that.
Gets drafted 16th in the NBA draft, and USA Today asks him, who's the toughest guy you played against through all that, Ewing, Jordan, whatever, and he said Bryce McPhee every day in practice. So Bryce would have been a 10-year pro easy.
I was going to say that I think he could have played a long time.
I think easily.
What about you? When did you stop?
I got my chance. I played rookie camp
That's right.
for the Sonics. And then
That's right.
On the last day of rookie camp, they cut everybody. Or they cut who they were going to cut. Because you were playing for one spot on the NBA Summer League team. And
how cool is that, dude?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was something.
And the Sonics, man.
Well, because it was Casey Jones, too. Which just seeing that guy. And so then after they cut everybody, there was still like half a day left. And some guys left. Other guys just dogged it up. And for whatever reason, I had my best time in rookie camp after they told me that I was done. And so I'm sitting with Bryce afterwards that day, and in the basement of his mother-in-law's house, and she calls down from the top of the stairs and says, Jimmy, telephone. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. She goes, it's Casey Jones. And so I pick up the phone.
I'll talk to him.
And so Casey Jones is saying, I'm not promising you that you will see the court at all, but I'm going to make an 11th spot for you on the Summer League team if you want it.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And I said, can I keep the practice gear? And he goes, yep. I go, you got a deal. So I went to the NBA Summer League, and it just happened to be.
Did you get paid?
No, but the per diem was more money than I'd ever made in my life.
Well, I remember John playing sophomore year, his second year, and Jim went and saw him. My brother went and saw him, and they just went and had a beer afterwards, just the two of them. And he's like, "I'm keeping all my meal money."
Right. For me, it was like a staggering amount. Yeah.
Right.
And then, so at the NBA Summer League happened to be at Loyola Marymount, where I'd played for my whole college career.
Right, of course.
And then some guys got disgruntled with their playing time, and they quit the Summer League team. So I just go up the depth chart by default.
Right.
We got Sean Kemp on the team too, which doesn't hurt.
Wow.
Because he was a rookie. He was coming into his, I think it was coming into his rookie year.
Wow.
So anyway, then the first game that I go up the depth chart, the guy that's guarding me is playing for the Phoenix Suns. He's a Pepperdine guy that I played against all the time, Craig Davis.
Okay.
Who I played against all the time. And so, things just fell into place. And then I made veterans camp. And there the writing was on the wall because the guy in front of me was on guaranteed money. So to cut him, they'd have to pay him his salary.
Isn't
plus
that funny
pay me mine.
And that's where you run into the, not politics, but the contracts situation that affects you. Even if you're a better player, you're not going to get to see the light of day.
And then, but that was like, Xavier McDaniel and Gary Payton and those guys. It was just great, and just being able to talk with Casey Jones every day.
What was he like?
Quiet, so like I remember once so we're sitting there and we're not doing what he wants. So he wants the defender to seal off in this one part and the guy's not getting there. And so he'd blow his whistle. He'd say, no, I want you to seal that off over there. So, okay, don't seal it off, blows the whistle. Seal that off over there. He's coming from coaching Bird and McHale and all these just veterans that were just polished.
Several NBA championships.
And so then the third time he just blows his whistle and he goes, let's come back at 3. This is a morning practice. That's him yelling at you. Was it not going to tolerate that. I think so. Because I don't know that those players would respond to somebody just screaming at them.
No, they wouldn't. And today especially.
But they didn't like to go home and then have to come back at 3. And he just commanded respect. He was such a great man.
Well, dude, he's Casey Jones.
I know.
He knew how to work the quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Did you ever think about playing overseas, or was that?
I did. I had a deal. I had missed the European season, and so I had a deal with the Amsterdam Flying Dutchman for the following year.
You would have been such a good Dutchman.
Yeah, I know. But so in that interim year, in the CBA team,
Dutchman.
the CBA,
there's some swag you want.
Oh, I tell you what,
man.
Mm-hmm. The CBA team had drafted the rights to me, so I had to go there for a certain period of time to get released, and then I could go.
And the CBA
overseas.
was then like the minor,
right?
It was like minor league basketball, right?
Right. And it was
AAA or something.
Yeah, it was not great. And I was in Wichita Falls, Texas.
But
I was injured.
Towns.
I ended my time with the Sonics injured, and so I had to go there, but I couldn't play because of this ankle injury. So I had to just be there for a couple of weeks and get released. And then in that interim year, when you're a kid and you're 6th grade, 7th grade, shooting free throws in the rain. You're not winning games for the Amsterdam Flying Dutchman. And I just thought I'm going to get on with law school.
And you went to law school?
Yep.
Wow. And was it Gonzaga?
Yeah.
And is that what you wanted to do the whole time? Had you thought about that?
No. I, from a young age, so I'm the youngest of 9, and my mom said, you're going to be the first American pope, president of the United States, or an attorney. And I don't know why she chose attorney, but I seem to, but the whole time I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a lawyer. And then after...
But pope, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really look into that one, but...
I was going to say, could you do all 3 somehow? Isn't there a joke there?
There has to be.
The lawyer or the pope. And
walk into
a bar.
But when I got done with undergrad, and I was done playing basketball, I just was taking a look at anything that I could do and what would I be well suited to. And so just talked to as many family friends as I could, and it just kind of had an epiphany.
How has it been?
It's good. It's,
it fits you. I wasn't surprised at all when I found that. I'm like, yeah, that seems exactly like what would be interesting to you.
People, say, what's the crossover? How is it like sports? What did sports do to lead to this? But, one thing with sports that people don't realize, it's a lot of time management, a lot of discipline and work ethic. And it's a lot of, you're down 10, but it doesn't matter. You're going to just keep, sawing
grinding
wood.
And fighting. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that, I just think the work ethic part of it, lends itself to it. And then I've been lucky when I played and now at my firm, just surrounded by awesome people.
You are a partner, are you not?
Mm-hmm.
How was that? That's a pretty great. What firm is it? And
Witherspoon, Brassage, McPhee.
Yeah, but I mean, how was that? What was that like? Getting that
again, same thing, like a natural progression. It's kind of like a goal. I mean, it's what you. So when I was done, playing sports and went to law school, it's I want to be number one. I want to be a really good lawyer, and then number 2, I mean, ultimately, you just want to be a partner and you want to own your own firm. What
made you stay here? Dana's not from here, is she?
No, she's from Gillette, Wyoming.
Right. So
I just love Spokane. So I went growing up in Tacoma. After my freshman year at Gonzaga, I went back to Tacoma for the summer. But after that, to be able to play with Stockton,
because he would come back every summer.
He'd come back and work out with us
the next day.
Yeah, I know. And so I started staying in the summers.
You would not have done that, McPhee.
Yeah.
No.
They, you get used to 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Growing up in 300 days of rain.
Yeah.
And then I just grew to love Spokane.
So why do you think so many Zags stay? Because you were the first of. I mean, you weren't the first, but
back in the day, it wasn't.
You were one of the early guys, and there are so many that live here now.
Again, it's just how tight the teammates are, but also just how Spokane has changed too. I mean, it's also a different animal.
Yeah, it's a different place.
All the foot traffic downtown, you just didn't see it. Back in
it was a ghost town. It's
much
more vibrant now. Yeah. The last century. Don't say it that way.
We went to college last century. I played for Gonzaga last century.
I know how old you are. So Stockton has this secret game. Tell me all the stuff you're not supposed to. You didn't get to go?
Well,
he doesn't invite a McPhee? What the hell?
No, my son would play in it when he was in high school.
Oh, okay, he did.
Yeah.
Did he?
It's as intense as it gets, and as intense as you want it. I mean,
did he? So he kicks the parents out. Does he kick you out?
No. Well, I knew not to go in.
You didn't even ask.
Nope.
I mean, it's the same thing you were talking about before, right? Like, I don't want you. Parents shouldn't be here, right? And I think there's something lost there, right? Because what do you think gets lost, and why do that? Because I can see some parents going, wait a minute, what goes on in there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get with a group of guys like that are intense and that can really play and really know how to play. So there's a huge age range.
So tell me who plays in this thing.
Anymore, I'm not certain. I mean, you got Mike Nielsen, John, Shan Furch, who played when I played. I think he's still playing in that game.
But like Olenek will come back and play. And you'll get guys who, played for Gonzaga or in the NBA that'll come back and play.
Yeah. But you can get this huge age range, but it doesn't matter because they can all play, and they're just all really good, but they're also intense. And I think you just don't get an outside influence. You don't get, did one of my parents see that? And what are they going to think about this? It is right in the moment. What did I do last play? What can I do to help the team right now? And that's all that matters because that's all that's going on right then. So, it's an intense environment. It's just an offshoot of when, the same type of thing. This became, John and John's kind of invite only, but before it was John would play with us, and it was the same type of invite only. And some people would get upset that they couldn't get into a game. But a lot of that was just because, again, you'd have the people that can play.
Yeah. And a lot of the players who play for Gonzaga have played in that. Yeah. They play in it. Do you think it's helped the program? Do you think it has some
absolutely.
Part of that?
Yep.
Why?
I think, a lot of it is, so when you talk about becoming, the type of a player that's going to understand the system and the type of person that's going to thrive in the system, just being around people who have thrived in the system, they're going to be displaying the habits that made them a success, and it's just going to help those people be a success in the program.
Tell me about your kids. You're old like me, so they're getting to be old people.
Today was Mackenzie's last day in her rotation, of her final rotation in medical school.
Congratulations.
So now she is.
Cheers, man. That's a huge.
Yeah.
Wow, Dr. Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So she finished. So now all she has to do is graduate, and then she interviewed for all the different residency programs, and then you rank them. She ranked them 1 through 9, and then March 18 was match day. She finds out which one of the highest ranked ones she gets to go to, and she got her number 1 match. So she's going to Peoria, Illinois.
Wow.
Pediatric hospital there. Wow. So she's really excited. We're all really excited. And then Will is my son, 24. He is at Eastern Washington University getting his master's. Wants to write.
That's
really,
cool.
really talented.
Wow.
And just proposed to his girlfriend.
Got a lot of all that talent from his mom.
Yeah, exactly. Just proposed to his girlfriend. And so lots of stuff happening. And then we have Emerson, who we adopted from Haiti when he was 15, just came here just before his 16th birthday.
Tell me about that. How did that all come together?
So Dana went down after the earthquake. I don't know how many years ago that was. She went down with, she's a physical therapist, a neuro-certified specialist, PT. So she went down with a group of healthcare providers and doctors and just provided relief after that. And Emerson was the translator at his orphanage. Just unlicensed orphanage that they just went and helped at. And then when she came back, so I'm the youngest of 9, and there's been international adoptions by my siblings. And so we always thought about it and figured Dana would come back from Haiti and be talking, but she just kept mentioning Emerson. And so it's a long process. Took us almost 3 years, 5 trips down there. And then Emerson's here. Just was hanging out with him last night.
How old is he?
He is 24 also.
Wow.
So just a huge heart, very gregarious, really good work ethic too. And I always joke, he's still trying to figure out if he wants to be an astronaut, a superhero, or a cowboy.
Or the Pope.
Yep.
Or
there you go.
Attorney.
There you go. But no, it's just he's just blessed the family.
Well, that's awesome. I'm grateful you gave me the time of day, first of all. What's been the best part of your career?
Which career?
I mean, the attorney piece. What's
the
been
people? Again, I'm just lucky. I think back to the guys that I played basketball with and the coaches that I had, and you don't get a lot of choice in that, and I just was so lucky, the whole time. And it's the same way with the law firm. I mean, I've got everybody top to bottom. I look forward to seeing them every day.
Well, you might have something to do with that.
Yeah, but I mean, no, there's still a lot of, when I take a look at who I get to practice law with, and everybody top to bottom, like I said, I'm just lucky.
Well, I'm lucky you said yes to doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've hung out.
Yeah.
But I still, man, DeSmet was pretty fun. That was as closest thing as you could get to a frat.
Exactly.
I would think. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Are they the players still in DeSmet?
I don't know.
God, I hope not for their case.
I know.
For their sake.
I know.
I'm sure they've amped. Now it's nice.
Yeah.
But boy, back then.
I don't know that it is. One of my nephews came up through Gonzaga, and he stayed in one of the same rooms that I did, like my sophomore year.
No way.
Yeah.
It was so cool. That was like, I don't know. There was something magic about that place, and it probably still is. But yeah. And I.
No, I still remember you and Lefty had the corner room.
We had the corner room, and you remember Sleepmate.
Yeah, I do. I do remember Sleepmate.
I
just looked at that thing for a few seconds. Like, what is that? Didn't make any sense.
When Lefty was on here, I told the story of trying to go home and for Christmas break and not being able to sleep the entire time because I had been so hooked by Sleepmate, the white noise machine. But no, it was fun. And even though we snuck a keg into our room, I swear you were not there, Fitz. McPhee had nothing to do.
That's right.
Even though his last name is Irish, he was nowhere to be seen. You ever talk to Doug Spradley, speaking of?
No, I haven't stayed in touch. He went to Germany.
He went to Germany. He was like a legendary coach over there.
Yeah. So he played his way up. He started with the Amsterdam Flying Dutchman, by the way. I was riding his coattails.
He took your spot.
You're
right.
No, I was right. Yeah, he finished before me.
He is a Flying Dutchman, by the way. That guy.
Yeah, he played his way up into one of the toughest leagues in Germany, and then he was, as I understand it, he was player coach.
Yep.
And then as coach, he just had this amazing success.
He's kind of a legend there, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. We're going to get this podcast in a situation where we can, Zoom. But I like when people come in because it's just better. But he's on my list to Zoom with someday.
Some
we're
guys
Facebook friends and stuff.
Some guys went and visited Germany, and they look up and there's this billboard, and it's Spradley.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Yeah. No, he made a huge career for himself over there.
Wow, that's
and from the bottom up too.
I'm kind of not surprised. The guy was a player.
He had some. I think he got a bad run in the NBA Summer League. He was playing for the Phoenix Suns. And I think it might have just been a bad situation because there are people. I think I could have played in the NBA with luck. I mean, I had to have like the exact right path to get there, and things had to really fall into place.
Kind of like it did for John. I mean, he got lucky with the right setup and the right coach and the right.
Who's that?
Stockton.
No, Stockton plays for anybody.
You think so?
Oh, I do. I think he's another guy that just doesn't matter what team.
You don't think
he's going to get found out and he's going to play?
You
anywhere.
think so?
And I would have needed to
because he has said that. Well, I just got lucky with Frank Layden.
He says that, but you just don't get a motor like that.
Right. Come on, of course.
But and so I would have needed to thread 3 or 4 needles to be able to make a roster. I think Spradley would have been a 10-year pro, and it always made me sad that that he did have that, whatever happened with Phoenix in the NBA Summer League, because then I think 7 times out of 10 that guy plays for years and years and years. He's so good.
You think Gonzaga wins a national championship someday?
I do.
And you're not worried about this?
It's tough. I mean, the question is how long can you maintain this run? And their ability to reload with players is staggering. But I got to think they're going to crack the code.
I think they are too. Well, I'll be there. Will you be there if they get there? I'm going to go again every time. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right,
thanks for doing this. MIP Podcast was filmed at the studio of Corner Booth Media. Please sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere podcasts can be found. Be good to yourself and stay classy.